Ma'am, we are discussing about food sensitivities. The first thing which will come in our mind is what is food sensitivity and how it can impact child behavior.
So food sensitivity is the uncomfortable feeling which a child has around food. Now it can be related to either picky eating or which is completely behavioral, or it can also be something physical. So like food sensitivity can be in case of behavioral, that the child only wants to eat plain rice or plain chapati or a plain dosa. They don't want to touch any wet textures or gooey texture, because they feel that when they touch a food they get a sensory input. Now this sensory input, they don't like it at all. uh, there are multiple reasons why this happened. One of the main reasons is because when they were young, we kept cleaning our children, even if there was one drop of food which was on their face or on their in their hands, if their fingers would get. So we basically, if we do not give our children enough room to experiment with food, it's okay to get messy. It is okay if some food is wasted. You can put a cloth or a bed sheet between the under the high chair and repurpose the food. But let your child experience the food so that the behavioral sensitivity does not come in. But when we talk about a sensitivity which is more physical, which could be in terms of allergic reactions, probably in case of food sensitivity, then there is something which you will have to go through a specialist, maybe perhaps an allergist, or a really known pediatrician who knows about how allergies progress in in children's body and what are the precautions to take. Now sensitivity can happen with mostly in, especially in case of allergic sensitivity, the food sensitivity in case of allergens, dairy. It can also be egg in some form. It can also be wheat, basically gluten. So each sensitivity, if it is an allergic sensitivity, it might take a few weeks to maybe even months to get for the child to get better if it is a physical issue. But if it is a behavioral issue, then a complete change of approach is needed. How you present the food to the child, how you think about the food, how you approach the meal times, all of this needs to change.
All right, ma'am. Ma'am, since we are discussing about food sensitivities and behavior, it is very important to understand that how a parent would identify what sort of food sensitivity their child is going through. So, if you could highlight a bit about it.
So if you see that your child is normally a picky eater, in the sense that you when you try to feed the child with distraction or with screen, the child is eating the food. Or when they don't know what they're eating, when their mind is somewhere else, but you're feeding the same food to the child, they're absolutely okay to eat it, and there's nothing which happens after they eat. It's just, then it is behavioral. Then they haven't really understood that this is the food which I can eat, and it's more of a picky eating nature. Now that food can be a wet food or a sticky food or anything which a child does not really like to eat by themselves. They will not touch it. So that's picky eating. That's more behavioral. But if your child say ate fish for the first time and they got some rashes on their body, or the other options are maybe peanuts for the first time, suppose they ate, and then there was any redness around the mouth, or there was some light swelling around of lips or fingers, or back or front or back rashes, if you see, then it's the physical sensitivity. It means that the child is allergic to that food. Now, there are 7, 8 famous allergens which we normally take care of when if you are giving it for the first few times to the children. However, there are different allergens, something food which is very high in vitamin C. Sometimes they can also cause skin irritation. That's not really an allergen, that allergic reaction. That's mostly just a superficial irritation, we call it. And there is a category of food called nightshade vegetables. Now, under that, they also can cause allergic reactions, but they are very superficial. They don't cause any internal issues. They are just mostly around face, or maybe on neck. You might see some redness. Brinjal is one of them, nightshade vegetable. The another one is pineapple. Sometimes it can have, but although it's a fruit. Kiwi can have that effect on children. Tomatoes can also have effect on those children, if they eat that food, and they might feel. a little. So there is no clear until and unless you don't see a physical issue happening, then it probably is that your child is just a picky eater.
All right, ma'am. Ma'am, after discussing about food sensitivity, also it is important to understand that how long does it take typically for a child so that a parent could see his behavioral changes when a food sensitivity is eliminated from their diet, or
Hmm.
even if they are suffering from it during the period. So how they can differentiate these two periods, if you could highlight that.
So if it is only behavioral, which is picky eating, um, and once parent starts to correct things, removing the screen, offering more variety to the child, eating with the child, different changes when the parents start doing, mostly and though no medication, just behavioral changes when they start doing, they might see difference in around 5 to 7 days. How the child is responding to the meal times. But in case of if the child has been diagnosed with an allergy, a food sensitivity, which is normally due to a physical issue, like there are physical issues when the child eats a certain food based an allergic reaction. In that case, they, as I said, they will have to work with a specialist, and it might take them around 2 to 4 weeks based on the food category. So, say for a gluten, like a gluten allergen, to actually get better, it might take around 4 weeks. But you will have to understand as a parent how gradually to introduce gluten in child's diet. So it cannot be like a quick fix. So with in case of allergic reactions, it's a slower recovery period, and the process is slightly longer in case of allergic reactions. So they will have to make sure that what kind of effort they want to put, if it's picky eating or if it is allergic reactions.
All right, ma'am. Ma'am, moving on, and let's talk about emotional eating also a bit. So, ma'am, how can emotional eating develop in children, and also what are the warning signs for parents if they want to understand their child is suffering from emotional eating?
So a lot of times children, suppose they've had a meal and they've had a decent meal, but they would still want to, maybe they know where the snacks are kept, so immediately after a big meal, say just 20 to 30 minutes later, they might still ask for say a cookie, or say a piece of bread. Now we normally thinking that okay, maybe the child is hungry, they are still hungry, so we'll give it to them. But what happens is, lot of time children, when they don't understand if they are hungry or not, if they are full or
Hmm.
not, they
Hmm.
start to eat when they feel anxious,
Yeah.
or when they feel distressed, or when suppose they heard someone shouting. Even no, they are not the one, they're not the one who's being shouted at, but they just heard someone shouting, or they heard a loud noise and they got a little worried. Breastfed children will come to their parents, will come to the mother for breastfeeding to release the anxiety. Some children might take the route of sugar if they want, either they would want salty food, or they would look for sugary foods, which will make them calm. So so whenever your child does that that they had a decent meal and now again they're asking for something else, say they are asking for a cookie or a biscuit, tell them, okay, I cannot give you a biscuit, but I can give you an apple. Do you want an apple? And you will most likely hear the word no, I don't want an apple and only want a cookie. And that means they are just eating out of habit. They are not eating out of hunger. So
Okay.
children start relating, and it's not only they start doing it because we somewhere implement that the moment child starts to cry, we start to give them what they want. Right. So then, or every time they cry, especially babies who are under 2 years, who
Hmm.
can't talk properly, every time they cry, and by chance, if they have eaten less food that day, every time they cry, we will think, okay, he's hungry because he's crying because he's hungry. He's crying because he's hungry, and we keep giving them food. So instead of pacifying them with the right approach, we use food as pacifiers,
Yeah.
and that tells the child that whenever you feel anxious, you start eating. And this, we notice this when they grow a little older, when they start going to school, and when they can genuinely make their own food choices. Because after a point of time, we cannot control what our child eats. They
Yeah.
will choose whatever is present in front of them. And that is when you will see that there is a lot of emotional eating happening. And if you don't want to be there at that point, you want your child to choose better food, you have to start when the child is a baby, like when they're starting solids. The initial first 4 to 5 years of life actually define the kind of food your child eats in this first 5 years of life, defines what kind of food they chooses when they are teenagers.
All right, ma'am. This was very informative. Since we are already talking about emotional eating, ma'am, how a parents can make child understand that, like, how to differentiate between emotional eating and healthy eating, how they can draw that line, which is very important. What is your take on that?
So when we know that this is not the meal time, this is the child just had a meal, or it's just been 30-40 minutes and the child is again asking for food, instead of jumping on to offering the food to your child, ask them, can you check with your tummy? How does your tummy feel? Is it full? Is it empty? What do you feel in your tummy? So basically talk to them. Help them understand that maybe you are not hungry, maybe you are thirsty. Okay, do you want a few sips of water here? So instead of, so which is why I always tell parents, don't start solving things for your children, support them, so that you can teach them what should the outcome be. Giving food just because your child is asking immediately after a meal means you're just solving it, that okay, let me just give it. Rather, if you just ask a couple of questions, that's it, that how are you feeling, are you actually hungry, how is your tummy feeling, we just ate a big meal, are you sure you want to eat again, our meal time is over, kitchen is closed now, can I give you a few sips of water instead? That's it. So you are not saying no directly, rather you are helping him understand that okay, this might be that you are thirsty, you are not hungry, or you are just eating because you are bored. So let's do an activity. So try and take them to do an activity, maybe painting or drawing or whatever the child likes. And if they get involved in that, a hungry child will not even do the activity. They will keep asking for food then. Right. So, but if you notice that they're actually involved in the activity, probably is that they are not hungry. They were just asking out of habit. And, so this is how you can help your child understand if they're hungry or not.
All right, ma'am. Ma'am, like you said that we need to, like, let them understand about how they are feeling about their hunger. Initially, it will, like, this will be just a developmental phase, and initially that will come into their response. But ma'am, before that, if you could highlight, like, how, like, emotional eating, if we have to develop this habit in children so that they can understand that they are eating out of habit only and they're not hungry. So what are the steps which you suggest a parent should do so that the child can initially understand that the pattern of eating and what to eat, when to eat, like that?
Yeah. So you need to make a schedule for the day. Make sure that there is a breakfast window, there is a lunch window, there are snacks windows in the day. And now those windows can be say 30 minutes long. So more or less based on your child's wake up time and milk intake, whatever. Imagine you created 9 to 9:30 as the breakfast window. Now, and then the next snack window must be around 11 to 11:30. And then the lunch window must be around 1:30 to 2, something like that. Now, if the child is asking for food outside these windows, ask the child, tell the child that okay, we just had a breakfast. You didn't eat more than 2-3 bites. So I think you are hungry because you only ate 3 bites. So let's wait for snacks and let them wait for snack. Wait for at least an hour and then give another food to the child. So don't just jump onto offering the meal to the child just because they are asking. So it's important to have a schedule in the day. If you will not have a schedule, you will keep giving the food to the child whenever they are asking.
Yeah.
And when the actual meal time will come, they will never eat because they are already full with whatever they have been eating in past 30-45 minutes. Right? This is called grazing. So if a child keeps eating food, like even 2 bites or 3 bites, they keep eating every 30 minutes or 20 minutes, they will never eat food at their proper meal time. In fact, this happens with us as well. If we keep eating every now and then, we'll also not be hungry